Hello and welcome to this extremely interesting panel discussion that has been organized by the Economic Times. Well, the topic for today's discussion is redesigning the digital education experience. I mean, how do you enhance the digital experience as the world gets more and more digitalized, particularly, after the onset of the pandemic conditions, and really make it worthwhile for students? My name is Mukbil Ahmed. I'm the executive editor at ETCIO. And first of all, I wish and hope that all of you are safe and secure, but the uncertain times do continue in some parts of the world. Now, coming to the topic at hand, in times when student safety and wellness becomes a top priority, educational entities are prioritizing their technology and network setups. Effective learning in today's hybrid setup relies heavily on network resilience, digital swiftness, and collaboration facilitation. The better the connectivity and digital experience, the more optimized the learning will be. Technology leaders are thus redefining their network and communication technologies with converged solutions to boost both their IT and OT environments. They aim to embrace the best of digital elements in the institution's connectivity systems. In turn, they aim to eliminate silos, enhance collaboration, optimize learning experiences, and all of that. And through this, they want to really embrace the best of digital elements in the institution's connectivity systems. In this discussion today, the virtual roundtable, we'll learn how educational entities can optimize their network and technical environments in order to deliver a very holistic learning experience. And I'm sure there couldn't have been a better time to discuss this. For today's discussions, we have a very knowledgeable and insightful lineup of speakers. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our guest speakers, and it's my pleasure to introduce Sandeep Bansal, Director IT, Reva Education; CM Mohan Kumar, Systems Head, DIT University; Amit Suratkar, Head IT, Symbiosis; and last but not the least, Richard Nedwick, Global Director of Education, Comscope. So I would really want to come first to Sandeep, and I hope all of you are doing well, and could I request all of you to turn on your audio and video. Hello everyone, how are you doing?
Hi, fine, thank you.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Great. So Sandeep, coming first to you, we would really want to start by realizing, appreciating, and knowing the latest trends in the education sector. And how has it really evolved over the past few years?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So, Mobile, the latest trends in education after pandemic, engagement and empowering learning new technology, using technology, like teaching with technology, and creating new avenues for trainers and learners, assessment enabled technology. Moreover, which I feel is required where higher education is looking towards digital transformation of our campus. Now, when we say digital transformation, so there are multiple stakeholders are involved here: student, parent, teacher, learning fraternity. So in these things, student success is very major aspect. So teaching and learning processes which has been provided during their journey in the campus, it has to be evaluated, evolved with the time. At the time of pandemic, we have realized there have been a tough time for our learning fraternity to overcome with the technology challenges, learning the new landscape of technology. We are looking forward the security in the campuses from the network point of view, the resiliency as you talk about. And the foremost requirement is the academic research. So understanding all these operations and everything, we look forward that required research is required for campuses to transform their digital journey, create a roadmap where they have to understand how the student acquisition till his alumni status can be acquired. So the latest trend in education sector, which I feel towards having more connected collaboration and looking towards a new avenue for the learning. So learning is no more limited to the classes now. It is becoming a kind of a open learning using hybrid mode and multiple other open sources. So it has changing a lot. So this I feel is the current trend on the education sector.
Right. Would you like to add on to this, Mr. Mohan Kumar?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for this great opportunity to be part of this wonderful event. And as far as the current trend in this post-pandemic, or I can say it's post-pandemic, it's end of pandemic. That's what we are all believing.
Yeah.
I think the way the education system was happening, I think there's a lot of shift. I can say there's a paradigm shift happened in the entire learning and teaching process, where I could see the learning has become like beyond walls, like beyond four walls. Normally what happens is the students sit in the class and they listen to the lectures, and they go back and either they sit with the books and start reading or go to internet. But today it's not like that. It is it's gone beyond that. Learning is possible everywhere, anytime, anywhere. That is the kind of scenario we are in. Yes, it has created a lot of new avenues, especially for the technology. A lot of new opportunities have raised. Especially education is the vertical where people were a bit hesitant to bring best of the breed technology, especially when you talk about the collaboration tools. But today you will see that everywhere the collaboration tools are being used extensively. In fact, if you look at the last 2 years, the number of classes conducted, the number of meetings happened in between in universities, it is the figure is it's mind-boggling actually. You find a lot of meetings have happened, a lot of classrooms have happened, and the main advantage is the students are able to go back and listen to the classes even at later time. So this has given a lot of freedom and flexibility for the students to learn. Probably earlier days, you see that the students come and sit in the class, whatever he listens, he writes in a paper and go back and sit. Probably will get confused. But today it's not like he is able to see the teacher again. Maybe when I go back to my bed, just before that I can listen to my classes, whatever happened, and probably if I have missed something, I am able to listen to that once again before I go to bed. So this is actually helping the students as well as teachers also in the entire teaching and learning process. So I think going forward, I think anyway, as I said, we have the start of the offline classes. Probably going forward, we will have a blend of this happening. You will have offline and online classes happening. So probably that will help the students a lot compared to the earlier years. So that is what is my views.
Right. Excellent points coming from you, Mr. Mohan. And generally during the discussion where we touched upon very pertinent areas of engagement and empowerment of students, providing them with flexibility and freedom. Now, staying on with you, Mr. Mohan.
Yeah.
You briefly touched upon this subject while you were speaking. Would you like to elaborate on the impact of the pandemic on the education sector? What have been the major learnings, and how can yes?
Yeah. So see, we never expected that this situation will come in. It's all happened all of a sudden, and when it was started, we were in a real dilemma. How do we engage the students? Because students all of them have left the campus, and but we cannot stop learning. So how do you do that? Like, a lot of debates and discussion happened, and anyway, at the appropriate time, we could able to find the collaboration tools, which helped us to even to start the class. I think within a month of the lockdown. Like, I think lockdown started in March 24, 2020, and I think we could be able to start the classes for the PG students, I think by mid of April. So within 20-25 days, we could able to board the students and able to give the training. See, training is very important, especially for the faculties, how to handle these tools, and what are the guidelines to be followed, especially when you give an online lectures. And that is one point. Second point is the fear among the teachers. Like, you are seeing your video, you are seeing what you are speaking, because in a normal classroom you cannot see what you are talking and how your body language is. But today, you are talking in front of the camera, and you need some kind of confidence to even speak. So that fear was there initially among the teachers, and I think we had a very intensive training within that short period of time for the teachers, and all of a sudden, yes, people started adopting to the system. And initially, yes, students were very happy to collaborate, but we never expected that this pandemic will go for 2 years. And of late, like, we find like the students are more keen to come back to the campus. Like, they would like to see the teacher and be with them, and interact with them. That is the kind of feelings students were expressing. But still, I think this platform, or the tools what was available during that time, really helped us to continue the education, or continue the learning and teaching, even the research activities without any break. So it is a great experience, and I think all of us will have the same thoughts and views on this. Yes.
Right. Many thanks, Mr. Mohan. Now, I really want to bring in Mr. Amit Suratkar. Amit, your views on this?
So good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for having me. As Mr. Sandeep and Mr. Mohan have actually taken all the juice out, but let me just share some of my experiences. I think when the pandemic hit, the students were happy. Everybody was on leave. The major responsibility was on us of how do we support the non-teaching staff, because the work had to be carried on. So we started, there are times when we had to ship computers, courier computers to certain people's homes, even if they are at a different level, from coordinators to a couple of faculty. We had to actually look at their internet connection. So at one point of time, we were having a core competency of a courier company. We were very efficient in knowing what is the best route, how to avoid the cops. Actually, we actually had letters. Of course, I shouldn't be putting this on the platform, but we actually had letters because we have our hospital and research center. So we are actually an enabler, and we fall into the classification of being on all the time, since we provide that. We also have a medical college for women. So that means the students had to be on campus. We have a resident campus, so they did happen to go there. The next thing was, as Mr. Mohan sir has already mentioned, the online collaboration tools actually helped us continue education. Examinations started being online, so we had to find out how to do exams online. They went into online proctored mode. So we were able to use AI and ML. There were companies which could offer us that. So that is where we had our first acquaintance with AI and ML to actually go through online exams. I wish I had them during my time. Of course, that's not an option right now. So that is one thing. Secondly, the first part of the pandemic was completely online. But if you see, after the students did come, there was a hybrid mode of education where some of the faculty came to college. Some students were in college. Some students were quarantined on the residence of the college, and some students were home. At this point of time, two technologies which I would like to mention, which we had invested in a long time back, became very important. And one was that we had an in-room access point, okay, something which we've been investing for the last 7 years, doing two campuses per, campuses per this year. And that helped us, because when you say quarantine means you're not supposed to open the door. So that is the time when the online delivery was done very well. The second was that we had invested in smart boards for our schools and universities in certain amounts. And when you have a faculty who has to teach to a different geographically different type of audience, some in front of you, some on the campus but not seeing you, and some completely off the campus. At that point of time, the smart board was helpful, not just because the primitive way was to take a video camera and put it on the person, on the lecturer, and then show his screen. But because of the smart board, we were able to share the smart board completely. So the concept of having a smart board started gaining importance. So these are two different investments which we had not thought of. They were effective, but we did not know that they would be so useful for us in the regime. So this is where and we had our convocation in the online mode, something which you don't want. You want to be on campus on that time.
True.
So the convocation was online once, and the second time it was in hybrid mode. And I'm just hoping that this time it is in the full presence of all the students, because that is one last thing you want to see the campus again. So this is some of my pointers on the pandemic, sir.
Right. So it seems you were experimenting or had invested in a couple of innovative technologies. Now, when the pandemic really hit, were you caught unawares, unprepared? Was it totally unanticipated, or were you able to navigate through it?
No, we were unprepared. There's no doubt about it. Nobody had thought that a virus will probably create such havoc. But being part of a group of IT professionals, being part of a good association with our partners, being part of being associated with OEMs actually helped us navigate through, because the entire university was looking up to IT at that time. Okay, and we had to play our part. I would say that each one of us played its part very well, from the teaching, non-teaching staff to the students. So I think we learned. The only thing which I feel is that the pandemic did teach us something which we need to expedite fast for a better teaching learning experience. I just hope that we are able to keep up with that pace and not hope for something else to strike us again to take education to the next level. So this is all I have to say in that regard.
Correct. Wonderful. I'll come back to you again, Mr. Amit, on how you are, really planning the way forward, stemming from your observation that you currently made on the way forward. Now, would really want to go to Rick. Richard, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to add on to the present ongoing discussion?
Yes, happy to. I have to say, I think my esteemed colleagues covered many of the good points I was thinking of. So I'm glad we're on the same page. Especially Dr. Amit covered quite a few good pieces. I'll just mention, even just this conference, this panel, is a great example of how education addressed this pandemic. Because this is a public sector, as an industry, this sort of collaboration and coming together to share best practices and ideas is how you get through it, right? I think it's a hallmark of higher education and public sector in general, that we come together to share the best practices, like you're hearing these great suggestions and great successes. So I'm really gratified that, first of all, that you asked us to be on this panel and share these, but also just so people recognize this is how we get through it. I want to mention one other thing real quick is, yes, on everything everyone said already. I think this idea of flexible attendance is going to be something that stays with us. I think if you asked 5 years ago about remote learning, online learning, there was a big trend called MOOCs, these massive online open courses as an option to scale. Which makes sense in theory and can be successful for some who have the infrastructure and the teaching styles and the online courses worked out. But for many, it's very hard to do. Now we're sort of forced to go through it. And I think many have come through and found a way to improve their e-learning infrastructure to make it more possible and more enjoyable. Before the pandemic, I think there was a question mark of the value of online learning versus on-campus learning. I can tell you that in the overall globally, it was generally priced the same, which is, always thought unusual. But I think the response that my colleagues touched on is the right one, which is we all missed each other. We all value the on-campus experience. If you ask a student, when you were learning remotely, when you were learning on your Zoom calls and your remote experience, was that as good as being on campus with other students and your professors? And the answer is almost certainly no, right? And so when we think about the value of the education and the value of a university or college experience, I think we're very clear now that if we could choose, we would be on campus. But sometimes you can't choose to be. And sometimes you wish to attend a course, but some days you cannot come to physical campus. In the past, there'd be a choice. Do I want to attend online or do I want to attend on campus? Which class do I take? Now, and I heard this mentioned already, it's one. You sign up for the course and you can attend live, remotely, live in person, asynchronously, remotely, and then synchronously in campus. Again, I think that flexibility is tremendous. I think it's wonderful. I think it's a good thing for a healthy return of the industry.
I totally agree with you. The amount of flexibility that is being accorded to students these days, it was unimaginable in my days when I was growing up and studying. But this is how it shows how the technologies have really matured, and of course, the pandemic was a tipping point which made the leveraging of all these various technologies almost compulsory. And to good effect, I would say. Now, I would like to go back to Sandeep on his views on, learnings during the pandemic, challenges, and how are they really preparing for the new normal?
So I would like to say pandemic was definitely, the kind of unpreparedness from the institution point of view, because the institution was not ready to undergo this kind of situation. And the challenges which I see was more about, providing the infrastructure and training knowledge to our teaching and learning staff so that they should be adaptive to the new technology which has come up. Students were not comfortable or easy to adopt and learn using a new technology. Now, during the pandemic time, we created so much of awareness. We tried training them, we tried connecting with them. As my colleague Dr. Amit said, providing them machines, laptops, desktops, reaching out to their homes. In many cases, we understood that students, they have to arrange, they have to go to some places to get the signal and internet connection. Because of a rural area, they are not having that kind of, internet connectivity. So they used to travel sometime with their tab and mobile to, take their classes. We try to understand their challenges and try to help them in all possible manner to adapt the technology change which has happened and which was not informed decision, you can say that. But yes, somewhere campus was technically, I will say, having those facility available. And it took us not more than 7 days to get ourselves equipped with to provide education to our, more than 10,000 plus students and start the communication. The other aspect where we feel was the content. You may have everything, but you need to have content. You have to get the content ready. When you're going to the normal classroom, you may be able to take a book and start the lecture by taking on the board. But here you need to have some PPT, you have to create those things. So that content creation was also one of the things which we have to step in and to provide the input and see how they can help it. It was, I will say, a learning moment as well as little challenging moment. One way we are worried about the health of our staff. Other way we are worried about the students' learning part. So those challenges we come past, and I remember we were evaluating. There was around 1.5 million sessions we created in 1 year, including as Dr. Amit said, convocation online, multiple other events we did online, so that we can engage the student and give them the feel factor of inside the campus. But until unless you don't go to your campus, you don't go to your hostel, you miss that college life. So that was one of the things. Now getting ready for the new normal, so we are ensuring all the technologically upgradation at the campus is ready. As we are going towards, as I told you, where we are ensuring all the student success story is being captured. And a student should be able to get his lectures, whether he's learning in the class, he can revise his content while it at home. He should be having those things readily available in the storage provided by the campus, and they should be easily accessible. So content as well as, and moreover, the classroom has been designed in such a way with the smart board and interactive boards, so that it can be hybrid classroom or it can be a normal classroom, the way they want to use it. So at any given situation, they should be able to deliver their learning journey.
Correct. Mr. Mohan Kumar, would you like to add on with your own thoughts and experiences?
Yeah, see, I fully agree with both Mr. Sandeep and Dr. Amit as mentioned here. There are a lot of advantages and equal amount of challenges also. Like initially when we started moving from the conventional to the digital classrooms. But fortunately, as a university, VIT keeps spending a lot of money, especially on the technology, since I think a few years ahead of this situation. So that has really helped us to move so quickly to the digital platform, the conferencing facilities, the virtual labs. We started giving virtual labs or made it mandatory for at least one session of our students have to go on a virtual lab, I think since 2017. So probably those investment as though it was, it was, and at that point of time, there was a lot of debate, with spending so much on a virtual, will it really, help us? But this pandemic has taught us, all these investments are justified. We were able to really, give the lab sessions at their desk, from the campus. So we use VDA virtual desktops for that, and BGPs virtual graphic server desktops. All those things are being provided for the student, where they are able to run their graphical application sitting at home. So, but only the challenge at the far end, that the students end, was the connectivity, because that is really was a problem, especially at the remote side. So there were a bit of struggles here and there, but over a period of time, I think those things were able to address all those things. And as Mr. Sandeep said, a lot of activities were happening online. We could able to conduct many of our national festival, which we used to conduct in the campus. We were able to do it. We have our annual cultural fest, which we call Rivera, that was conducted online. In fact, we had a technical event, Gravitas. That is what is our annual technical fest that's being conducted in the last 2 years in the online mode. A lot of participation from worldwide. That was an advantage we enjoyed. People from all over the world participating, especially in this technical event. So that has given a lot of boost for this event, as well as for the students to interact, collaborate, and probably some of the events, people have become, started talking on some new innovation technologies, and started. In fact, there are a few startups came out of it. They were all interacted over this collaboration, and they, with some ideas, they started having a small startup, and there are cases like that. To me, I think this pandemic has given us an opportunity for everyone, including the teachers, students, faculties, the management also, to really use or leverage the power of technology in making themselves engaged in the entire teaching learning process. Yes, so that's my
Right. So Mr. Mohan Kumar says that there have been challenges, but technology and the various tools have been very handy in, providing a remedy to the situation, to the, very difficult circumstances that enterprises and institutions found themselves in. However, he did point out to connectivity as being a major challenge. Moving on to Mr. Amit Suratkar, and really changing gears. Amit, would you like to add on to these thoughts?
Yeah, so one of the things is when you look at connectivity and when you look at rural areas, and when you look at holistic education. So for us, holistic education, we perceive holistic education not just teaching the students. Degree and placements are just outcomes of education. But can we teach them survivability skills? Do you have a survivability quotient? Do you have a health quotient? In today's world, health has become very important. So when you take education to the rural places, how are you able to do that? We have our school. One of our schools is in a rural place, and it is connected with the basic connections. But we have introduced this concept of a mobile van. We've been 2 decades into providing health services to in and around areas of Pune since the last 2 decades. How have we changed that using technology? One is we've started teleconsultation. So previously, when there were only paramedics who were looking at providing solutions, they are now directly able to use connectivity from various different technologies and connect to our hospital and interact with the doctor to get real-time solutions rather than taking an appointment. So that is one thing which has changed. The second thing, we want to make everybody digitally aware and cyber aware, basically, and not just the students, because the next generation comes in inbuilt, I would say, with digital technologies. We just have to guide them to use it well. So how do you make this is in line with the government's mission of National Digital Literacy Mission. So we already have incorporated a mobile digital literacy van, which is already in action, trying to take students, boys, girls of different ages, men and women of different ages, and trying to teach them one concept in which at least one person in the family is digitally aware. Okay, and this is apart from the people, our students. We want to somewhere connect our students to do that in the future. If we are able to, this is a long-term commitment from our side, apart from the work and job responsibilities we are supposed to do. So when we say connectivity education, it is not just for the elite, because I remember that our grandparents, they were lucky to get education. Parents were probably forced. We were enforced, I would say. And the next generation, we have to share. Actually, we can't enforce on them because it's completely different. How do you use digital technology to share that is each one's skill and each one's organization's culture, which will help them. An organization which looks out for people other than its own will probably understand the extent of the problem and maybe able to find solutions, just like we've done with the digital concept. So I definitely feel that in this age, digital is here to stay, but classroom is also here to stay. Digital is just one part of the classroom. I have been fortunate to take education inside in India and outside in the United States. So I can say that for sure that the environment in a US university has taught me some survivability skills. Of course, the degree and all is just part of it. And that is probably something which, when I go back and see how I'm surviving in today's situations, I think it is that survivability quotient which I would like to see how we can pass it on to our students. And I think exchange programs are the best way in which, a lot of universities have exchange programs. And when students come back, even when with a 1 semester or 2 semester, we see a lot of change in them. They've seen, they have a different level of understanding of how to stay, how to eat, not just the education, of course, is there. So this is something which is required. So you need to go to the higher end. You also need to touch the rural, because that is also somewhere other than what you need to give, and all those are all secondary factors. But I think if you are curious enough to find solutions, you also need to go to the grassroots level. And that is something which we have been able to experience with our stay here.
Right. So, Amit, I would completely agree with you that inculcation of skills like survivability or life skills actually takes a lot of imbibing of experiences from the environment, from various people. Of course, that is something that cannot be, in fact, taught in a classroom. I totally agree with you. However, taking the discussion on digital further, you did agree that, we need more engaging, more superior experiences that would really pull the students in and make them want to learn. Now, continuing with this discussion and bringing in Richard. Richard, you have heard of the various challenges that have been spoken about by the panelists here, and they have all shared their, the problems that they had, and the challenges that the sector faces and the challenges that they faced themselves. Now, I would really want you to bring in your perspective on how these challenges and hurdles can be negotiated, navigated, tamed.
Well, it's not like I have all the answers, but I will give you some perspective. And I really like this discussion of the holistic education and the way to develop students. I think that's a fantastic topic that I didn't anticipate, as an outgrowth of this, but it makes tremendous sense. I would say that as far as creating better experiences or more compelling experiences, I think that's going to be incumbent on the panelists here and their peers at other universities to either to innovate them or to become those enablers for innovation. And that's sort of the progression that we're seeing from the IT side, as our mission is not simply to provide total campus connectivity, which it is. It's become, like water and heat and electricity. We must have internet access, right? If nothing else, this pandemic taught us the importance of being connected and staying connected, right?
Essential commodity.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons students wanted to go back to campus or back to school is because that's where the reliable connectivity is. Right? Right? And I've heard this over, even if you think you had reliable connectivity remotely, when you realize that you and all your neighbors are trying to connect at the same time, it's not so reliable anymore. And so the experience wasn't what we thought it was going to be. But that's just the baseline to get started, whether it's laying the cables and the copper and fiber up to the power and data distribution of your Ethernet switches, or out to your Wi-Fi connectivity, which most of our users are going to take advantage of on their mobile devices. It could be also 5G cellular connectivity or LTE connectivity, and now IoT for sensors and connecting machine to machine. All of those things fall under IT purview today. So at a baseline, it's how do I get my arms around that in order to create a foundation to build these new seamless experiences for the students? That's challenge number one that I believe CommScope can help with. Ruckus networks for access points and switches, and CommScope structured cabling, and our CloudPath onboarding software to securely bring those student devices onto the campus and allow them to roam seamlessly. And I heard also earlier AI ML, which is applied to networks now. It's touching everything. And the idea that you could automate so much network monitoring and management as an extension of your own IT staff. These are all enabling tools to make you more effective. But what I think is the most transformational piece of all this is going to be IoT. One of the trends that I don't think we've touched on yet is this coming together of IT and OT, the operational technologies, the building automation systems, are moving to IP-based networks. And it raises an interesting point. Do we want to create a unified network for all of these systems, our learning networks, our campus networks, and our operational networks could be one, managed as one, led by IT, where OT owns the experience within those buildings and relationships with vendors who provide those experiences for things like lighting and access control and security systems and digital signage and things of that nature. Or should it be bespoke networks and we should have operational networks and IT networks? That's really a discussion point at this point. I don't think that's been decided, and it may be what's best for an individual campus to decide. But the use of IoT sensors is going to create something new. It's going to tell us who's on our network, what's on our network, how is it being used, and giving us data that we never had before. And that data is going to empower new experiences, new ways of teaching and learning, new ways of providing improved security, and even operational efficiency off these same networks. At CommScope and at Ruckus as well, we call these smart campus innovations. And so the network itself is going to provide IT the ability to create a platform for innovation. As we bring these different sensors together, I like to compare it to ingredients in a stew. And the more we bring together, the more recipes we can create, and hopefully more delicious than the meal as we bring these together, right? Some very simple example could be, I'm a student on campus and I need to know, do I have time to have a bite to eat before I get to my class? If I had real-time information about the queue length at the nearest campus eatery, I would know whether I had time. And I might also know the time it takes for me to get to class. I'd have my class schedule. I have everything in the palm of my hand on my mobile phone. It's really transformational how much information students can have in the palm of their hand. That kind of experience removes the stress level, kind of slows down things for a student and allows them to focus on their studies. If we can provide more time back to a student per day, then they feel like they can get their study time in and get their social time in, and maybe have a workout in. And that creates that more holistic student experience where I feel like I can get my studies done and everything else and reduce the stress level. That drives engagement. That actually improves retention. So I would open up to the panelists as well to see if they've thought about or have tried IoT as to create a contextual network to gather data about how your network's being used and sort of the seamless experiences that they hope to create.
This is a very interesting turn to the discussion that we have had till now. And thanks for opening this new point of discussion. Richard has very rightly mentioned that, various strands of emerging technologies, of which he did point out that IoT has been shows the most transformative potential of all of these. I would really want my panelists to add on to the views, to his views. Do they agree? Or what other emerging technologies do they think are the most transformative or hold the most potential for the education sector? Sandeep?
Yeah, I 100% agree with Rich. The IoT is the most, widely spread nowadays. If you see, we are looking towards multiple ways of utilizing the technology to get the data from various ways. As for example, a student, when he's coming to the classes, we're just looking towards how to capture his attendance without, he has to turn up on a roll call. Then, we want to understand how we can monitor our, consumption of different aspect and do the cost optimization, like electricity, water consumption, oil consumption. Because during pandemic, we realized that it is not the one thing which we are looking towards teaching and learning. There are other aspects because, the campus is here. Everybody is at home, but campus is here. We have to maintain the campus. There is a lot of, cost involved into the maintenance of this. Now, as you said, Mukbil, about the learning process is a new technology which is required in the higher education. Yes, the AR, VR, AI, ML, all this, the words which is coming to the augmented reality, virtual reality. These are all technologies we are exploring and seeing how we can add value into the students' learning scale. I remember Dr. Amit added in the start about virtual reality and augmented reality. It is definitely a good way of learning. I remember, just a decade ago, school started with they were used to train using, the videos and training students over the rather than giving the lectures. So the understanding behind this was the student or somebody captures the kind of incidents which is happening. Similarly, when you're showcasing something or teaching, changing the technology, bringing up, the things like augmented reality and virtual reality, which is bringing more power to the learning process of the student. And if you see in the current scenario as well, the teaching and learning process, whatever you're given over the, using any technology, but student has to start doing their own learning. So the self-learning has also emerged a lot. So I believe there's going to be more technologies which is going to explore in coming time, and those technologies is going to help the student to learn more about their current. But one thing which is going to which is very sure, technology cannot replace the classroom education. That will remain there, because a physical connect and the eye connect with the body language, with a kind of a sentiment, emotions, feel factor, those are very much required. Technology cannot provide at any cost.
True, true. I would agree with you, Sandeep, on this sentiment, which is very true, that there are a lot of things which cannot be replaced by the digital world till now. So we have heard a lot of discussion on new technologies, things like AI, ML, IoT, as Richard spoke about, Sandeep spoke about AR, VR. Mr. Mohan Kumar, would you like to add on to this discussion?
Yeah, definitely. I think these are the emerging technologies which is going to drive the campus maybe in future. But yes, there's a lot of work needs to be done basically to make these things in reality. What I feel is like, as we already discussed, like, connectivity is one of the challenge, and another challenge which I am foreseeing is the security. Like, unless otherwise you have a secured connectivity and a secured environment for storing your data, definitely it is going to be another big challenge which all of us will face probably in the year ahead. Yes, as Mr. Richard said, like, IoT plays a major role, especially in gathering the information, and when you have a larger campus where your students are spread across, probably these technologies will help the students as well as the teachers to locate them, or even to locate, not even to move around the campus without any problem. Like, in fact, I have seen in some campus where when you get in, then when you get inside, like, you get lost there because you do not know from where you started and where you are now. So probably these technologies will definitely help them in moving around and inside the campus safely and securely. But as I said, like, but it's not an easy task. A lot of effort has to be put in, and especially with respect to the data security and the security available during when you are connected. So that will be a real challenge going forward.
Great. So, Richard, I would really want you to take this up, in the sense that two of our panelists, Mr. Mohan Kumar, has, repeatedly talked about it, and Amit also spoke about it in passing, which is the very critical issue of security. How do you provide all these technologies in a safe and secure manner? Of course, safety and security would be of paramount importance, in particularly if young students or children are concerned. Your response to it, Richard?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think like most industries, we're all facing, and it's in the news almost nightly now, about cyber attacks and ransomware and cybersecurity and even at a national level, right, as a weapon, right? So it is the new thing, right? It is the new reality. We can make our campuses physically secure, and we should, but cyber secure just as much. And it's just particularly more challenging for higher education because, look, what we really want to do is provide information services as openly and freely as possible, so that as many students, faculty, guests can take advantage of it. That's really why we're here, right? We want to make that available, but that can be used against, because that drive to make open may lead to some insecure practices. So I would say there was two important things to bring to bear, and you can have many panel discussions and webinars just on this topic, so I'm not going to try to cover all of that. I will just emphasize that the security that we try to provide, but all vendors try to provide, it needs to help you cover all aspects of connectivity. Physical connectivity, is fiber more secure than Ethernet? Is Ethernet more secure than Wi-Fi? In general, maybe private wireless networks, running private 5G networks is a more secure way of approaching. And I've seen some campuses in the US that we're working with now that are looking at private 5G networks as a business continuity solution because of ransomware threat. That if their networks are taken down due to ransomware, they have a backup network that might be a private wireless network to provide some basic services. IoT, again, we talked about IoT. There's a big concern. I know many CIOs who have said this is what keeps me up at night, is worried that IoT is less secure. And so putting IoT, this is part of that discussion. Should it be part of your IT network or a bespoke network? It may be a reflection of which network is more secure. The way we do it at CommScope is we treat IoT as an integrated part of your IT network. All the packets are secured and treated as secure data and treated and secured in the same fashion. But other vendors may have a different approach. Now, of course, you're going to have next generation firewalls and all the usual protections, and you should. But I would also suggest, having looked at other verticals in my past as well, such as retail and healthcare, that it is best practices that define how secure your campus is. There's going to be no box that you purchase. There'll be no software license that you can buy that will make your campus totally secure. It is, and I think someone touched on it before, part of that holistic student experience of teaching you. When you see, that email, you don't click on the phishing attack, right? That you educate people that this is part of being a digital citizen and understanding the threats that are out there and the behaviors that are good and that are bad. But if you look at things like HIMSS for privacy, if you look at the retail world, PCI DSS has fantastic 12-step programs securing your data. The entire network design is based on the knowledge of a secure data. In that case, it's credit card information, but it could be student data privacy, it could be whatever. But then anything that is adjacent to that network, anything that stores that data, anything that touches that data or conveys that data, any access to reach that data or share that data, it is all part of your 12-step plan for securing the campus. And so I would say it's got to be a combination of working with your vendors for, do I have the right technologies to secure each way of connecting on campus, but do I have a holistic practice to educate my campus on what are those best practices? And again, there are some out there like PCI, and then there are some out there to address educating your users on how to behave appropriately in a digital world.
Right. I really liked your statement, Richard, that no matter what you buy, there cannot be foolproof security, because security in itself is an intersection of various factors and aspects, all of which need to be kept in mind. And thank you, Richard, for suggesting the topic for the next discussion. We'll definitely keep that in mind. And with that, we come to the end of this extremely interesting panel discussion. We still have some time to take the questions. And as we had promised that we will follow up this panel discussion with a brief session in which we will take up questions from the attendees, and I can see a lot of them, although there is some shortage of time. However, we would try to accommodate as many as possible. The first question is from Jayashri Indiran. She says, not only students see us, even anyone who has access to the session could see the teacher and make comments on the worth of the sessions? Doesn't it create anxiety among teachers? This is a very interesting question and open to all of you. Who would want to take it up?
So I would like to, Mukbil.
Yeah.
We have faced this issue during the setting up this online classes. So there were certain cases, when the link has been passed on to the colleagues or the friends, those are able to do it. So there is always IT has to ensure the only authorized users can use that link. These are the policies, as Rich rightly said. You have to identify and fix your policies so that only the intended users or the users those are basically belongs to your organization should attend. Second thing is, which I feel I have seen in many higher educations, the students are allowed to use any login IDs. We have made a very strict compliance that student has to use only institutional ID which has been provided to them. That becomes very easy to identify who the student is if something is going on. Second thing is, if he is going to transfer the link to somebody else, he will not be joined. So these are the 2-3 factors. If this has been taken care by the people, those are managing the IT infrastructure. So I believe this can be addressed.
Right. Thanks for your response. I hope it addresses the question. The next question is from Mr. Anil Kumar. He says, will hybrid education really fetch value in schools and higher education? How are the parents looking at such new platforms?
Probably I'll take this question. I think there is always a concern for the parent, when they leave in the morning to their workplace, you do not know whether the children are really attending to the sessions or whether they are just logging in and they do their own activities.
Sleeping off.
Yeah, sleeping off. Yeah. So this is a concern for all the parents, including myself, because my children are now attending the online classes. So I do not know whether really they're in the classroom or not. And as a parent, I cannot do the policing also. That is also there. But I think see, online education is good as long as it is not for a long term. I have seen you cannot give an degree programs on an online course. Probably we can think about giving certificate programs or some short-term programs online. But I think the rest of the things have to happen in the campus. Then only even the children as well as the parent will have the confidence about their learning, whether they've really learned or wasting time in attending to this not attending to the online classes. So it's a real concern for all of us. Yes.
True. We now come to the next question, which is from Dr. Pratima Khandelwal. She says, please elucidate on the new and robust means and methods developed on continuous formative assessment methods using Digitech. I think this question is more related to teaching pedagogies and very rightly addressed to all of you. So who would want to take this up?
I should have taken the previous 2 questions, I feel. Anyway, let me just say this, that since I've been part of the governing bodies, they have a classification of outcome-based education. So in that, just like I've mentioned, that every program, every course, and every graduate, there is a graduate attribute, there is a program outcome, there is a course outcome. Okay, all these factors help you to attain some sort of core competency in the major you're taking, in the program you're taking, and in the graduate attribute you will attain after graduation. So that could be 10 graduate attributes with 4 program outcomes. So 2 of us could take the same class on networking, and one will probably have a better, the marks could be the same. But if you were to go deep into the questions I could have got 50 out of 70. My colleague could have got the same 50 out of 70. That may, in the current scenario, it may mean we've got the same grade. But if I was to look at the course outcome and the program outcome, I may have got more marks in security, while he may have got more marks in network privacy. Okay, so this is where all those things will probably be outlined, and it is very deep, it is very complicated, but it's very complete, I feel. So it helps you to be more specific in what you want. And if you don't want, if you're not that enthusiast, there's a whole lot of features in which you can at least find out what is good for you, and then you can dig deeper, deeper, deeper. And I think the current form of outcome-based education in the long run is going to bring out people who are very well qualified in their core competency than just we are the reason why browsing on and studying is different from reading and understanding. That is where that difference, that gap is probably going to reduce. And this is my take on it. I'm probably the least experienced, but probably having just an exposure to this outcome-based education, I feel that this is where it is going right now.
Right. Now we go, although we have overshot our time limit, but we will still try to accommodate, because I see that there are many interesting questions. There is another one from Jayashri. She says, safe exam browser and transparency in learning and teaching, TILT, are popular tools, processes easily available and used to sustain security and safety. How reliable are they? Who would want to take this?
I'll take this question. See, there are safe browsers available where all your movements are being captured. But thing is, like, what we have been observing is, like, it doesn't stop you from copying or carrying out the malpractice, because you see, in fact, when we did an examination, we had a proctored examination. That means we have two cameras. One camera will be facing the student, the other one will be the environment, like, so that way we ensured that at least no one is there, even the students' movements are being captured. And when you have too many movements, automatically you are blocked, or you are disabled from writing the examination. Then the teacher will advise the students what he is doing and what he is not supposed to do. Like that, yes, we could able to do it to a certain extent, but still there are chances of doing malpractice in the examination system. That's what my views.
Right. And I agree with you. People, unscrupulous people, can always find out ways to circumvent everything, no matter what checks and balances you put. Now, I think this is going to be our last question for today's discussion, which is from Manoj Singla. He says, is digitalization a big blow to core sector education? Anyone here wants to take this?
I'll take this, Mobile. This is not going to happen, which Manoj, which I feel, because digitization is a way of, operations. It helps us to, drive more value from our day-to-day working. I remember in past, there has been many verticals, they have moved towards the digitization, and it has been feeling it is going to, encompass, or it is going to dissolve the value of that particular vertical. People will lose their jobs. It doesn't happen like that. It always gives you more flexibility to reduce your day-to-day operation. It gives you more comfort to get you, your jobs done in a faster manner, in an effective manner. So I feel digitization is going to bring more clarity, transparency. Also, it is going to help, even learner as well as trainer to evaluate and improvise on their skills. So I believe digitization is way ahead, and now it is a time that institutions are looking forward to see what are the gap they are having in their system, and they are trying to understand all these gaps, how it can be filled. As rightly said, I missed the point. Cybersecurity, education institution has been a #1 target. Why? Somebody asked me, what is there? We have the data. Which data we have? Which somebody can take it. So I just ask if a ransomware attack happens to the university main examination system, entire data transcript of so many years lost. Can you ask some student after 15 years that I don't have your transcript because it was got, somebody has stolen the data? No, it cannot be possible. So we have very, very crucial data with us. That is very important for the university, for the students, those have passed out, for the alumni as well. So we have a responsibility on it. So digitization is very important and it has to evolve. It should evolve, but it will not going to cover up our actual education system.
Right. Excellent inputs from Sandeep. And with this, we come to the end of this panel discussion. It has been a lovely discussion. Very exciting, very interesting. I can still see the questions pouring in, but in the interest of time, we will really need to wrap this up. We have already overshot by 6 minutes. I can see the clock here. Thanks everyone for attending this extremely exciting and interesting panel discussion, where we discussed a lot of very important, pertinent, and burning subjects facing the education sector. I'm sure the attendees will have a lot of knowledge and takeaways from this session. Have a great day ahead, ladies and gentlemen. It was an absolute pleasure interacting with all of you.